Some say they are savants. Others say other things. Be prepared to laugh and learn. This is the Scottie C and Mikey B Show.
All right, we're live. You're late, by the way.
I know I'm late because I keep forgetting. Well, that's not really my fault. You want to hear why?
Wait first. Yeah, sure. So it's our first official live podcast, and you're late. But go ahead. Tell me your excuse.
Well, it's our second official, right?
Well, not official.
Why? What happened to the first one?
We didn't have video.
So the first one we were doing at 6. This one we're doing at 1.
Okay.
I forgot it was at 1, and actually I literally almost sent you a message saying, "Hey," thinking that you wouldn't be on time. Hey, we're still on time for 6, but then it turns out I was the bonehead. So
yeah, that's okay. I'm going to chalk it up as just who you are. You know.
Listen, I was excited. So I got a new camera because my other one was real grainy. Although I'm kind of going in and out in this one. My light is coming today.
Nice.
Problem is I have an overhead light. If I turn it on,
okay,
it like shines down on me. So, but I think this is all right.
Yeah, it'll be all right. I mean, this is going to be officially a podcast. We're going to put this out, some videos on YouTube and other places.
It's going to get better.
Yeah, and it's going to blow up. And, the first million are going to be upset by our first video. But,
we're going to piss a lot of people off. And that's okay.
The billions that follow won't even notice this even happened. Yeah. I want to show you something. So,
go ahead.
Two things. So I ventured into writing some books, right? And so the first, I have 3 books that are coming out, and the second 2 are in. They're kind of getting formatted for Kindle, the ebook. And
did you write them, or did Chat GPT write them?
I did. I wrote them, and I'm pissed off because it took me a year to write them, to do all the research and then write it. I created the course. I created my course based off of this research. So the board director fundamentals course and the corporate board fundamentals course. So there's 2, nonprofit and the corporate board. So I wrote these these 2 board courses. One is, like I said, for the nonprofit and for the corporate. And there's some similarities, but there's some differences. So I wanted to write a book that corresponds with both courses. And then I wanted to also write about this nonprofit course, how to start a nonprofit, basically, the beginner's guide. So I spent all this time writing it.
I remember that book cover. Yes, people.
Yeah, I did. So I have it. I'll share it to you. So so on Facebook. Yeah, so on Facebook, I did not choose.
I couldn't remember.
That was my choice. But anyway, so I got the book. I'll share it with you in a second. So I wrote this, and I'm thinking it's going to be like this really massive book, right? Like, took me a long time to research and to write it, and on my Google Docs there was like 100 and some pages or something, right? Yes. So then I got it formatted. So this is what I was expecting, right? I was expecting this is expert secrets from ClickFunnels, right? I was expecting this, right? And then this is what I got. So
yeah.
So this is this is what I got. Yes, this is what I got.
I forget if that's the one that I think I like that one. Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah. So this is the there's 2 of them. So this is the what do you call it? The proof that Amazon printed for me. It's pretty cool looking, and everything looks good, looks formatted, but it looks a little flimsy. So I'm gonna have to change the price on this. By the way, it should be released on Amazon in a couple of days. It's getting reviewed right now. I got to make a couple adjustments to it, but I'm gonna have to reduce the price on this thing, because this is
what were you looking for?
I was thinking $199. No, I was thinking that that this was going to be $19.99, right? Because I was doing research on other competitors. I'm gonna call them competitors. I'm not really competing against them yet, but others in the industry. And I think it was $19.99 would be good price for a book, an ebook. But looking at this is more like a $9.99, $4.99 thing.
I'll tell you what, though, I think those books are better than. I'm trying to see what. It's funny you said that. So I started thinking people I know that have written books, right? And I have a couple of them. You see I love to read. I read
Okay.
everything and
Same here, believe it or not.
anything. Um, and then, so these are a couple books like this guy, Ricky Carruth. I'm a big fan. I see you
Okay.
have Grant Cardone's
Oh
10X
yeah.
on. And, but
Yeah, we
Ricky
could talk
Carruth,
about that too.
yeah, he's, so he wrote, and again, I'm looking at the size of your
Oh
book,
yeah,
right?
it's about the same.
Yeah,
All
we have
right.
about
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how many pages it is, but it's big letters.
Oh, mine's like I think 10, 11 points. So it's like
Is it? I don't
good
know
reading
what they are,
size.
but this
You
is
got, you got like a
this one's
kindergarten book size.
this is 92.
Early pictures.
Yeah, like 4 words a page. There's like 92 pages on each one of these, 100 on the other. Anyway, he wrote a couple of them. He's just a
Okay.
sales guy, and I follow. I think he's great. He's a real estate guy, but
Okay. Okay.
very very approachable and all that. But anyway, so he wrote those books. And it's funny, right before we got on here, so you got your 10X hat on, right? So Grant Cardone,
Yeah.
become a fan of Grant Cardone. I like, I like him. Very energetic, Um, I was watching a podcast comes on every Wednesday at 1 o'clock that I started watching, and it's recorded, so I'll watch it later. But it's a cold calling podcast, and Ricky Cruz, he cold calls a lot. In fact, that's how he basically runs his business. And so I just started thinking about that stuff. Like, when you mentioned the book and stuff, kind of tied in together a little bit. But I think the sales process. I was listening to the like a lot of younger people are cold calling now, right? And I listened to the process where I grew up in kind of that traditional. Actually, I grew up, Steve Schiffman. I don't know if you remember Steve Schiffman.
No.
Oh, I'm going to get that book. So this is the book. This is the book. Actually, Mark Cuban called this the greatest sales book ever written, right?
Wow.
And it's thin, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Okay. You're making me feel good.
yeah. Let's see what this one goes
Yeah.
for.
Okay.
I think actually you can get it for like $7.98. So
yeah. So that's about
your price point.
I'm about right. $7.98, $7.99, $8.99. Yeah.
But you never know. Aim high, $9.99. Anyway, so this book actually, when I first started in health insurance sales, this book is the only book that was out at the time. Went to
Okay.
Barnes and Noble in the mall or Borders, whichever one was in the mall, and this was in that sales section. And it just happened to be kind of a famous book. I read it in the weekend. I liked he put numbers in here, like what you think, everybody says that you got to make 100 cold calls a day, things like that. And he would write down, you need to make 15 or 20. I think that's changed now because it's hard to get a hold of people. But in any event, I mean, this book, I tripled the production of 40 other people with this book.
Wow.
So, and I didn't do, I mean, I had weeks where I would do over 100 cold calls, but for the most part, I would do 60 to 100 phone calls a week. And that would give me my 3 to 5 appointments. But anyway, so I think it's changed. It's definitely changed now because I used to be able to get a hold of 10% of the people you reach out to. But now you got, the secretaries are really hard. You got the IVR systems, auto attendants, where if you don't know their extension, you're going to, you have trouble. But I think and I think the place for, the market always corrects everything, right? And like that Zoom info and those services that give you people's cell phone numbers and socials and, their what time they wake up in the morning. That seems like anything they have.
A little creepy.
Yeah. And but those help. But anyway, I just, talking about sales a little bit, I still think, you're not a cold call, right? So
what's interesting about 2 points on cold calling.
Yeah.
Number one is no. It's funny too because I was thinking about the 10X, right? And one of the parts of the 10X book is it talks about fear, right? And in that fear there's the enemy of fear. I mean the I guess it's the what makes fear grow is time, right? So anytime you start to feel fear and allow time, it multiplies the fear. Right, to the point where it becomes crippling, and then you can't do it. A few times at the bar, right? You ever been at a bar, right? I'm sure you have, right? You're sitting there, and oh, I know that's not true. You sit at a bar, and then someone's making eye contact with you, right? And you know it. Been there, right? But I was always
I was
always scared. I was always scared. I know there'd be eye contact. I look down, look up. I look down, look up. Make eye contact. Right. That was the moment of fear that would strike, and then I wouldn't take the action that I needed to take. And then you start looking up. Then it becomes creepy. You just keep looking back and forth, and then
then you find out it's one of your cousins. It's Wayne.
Yeah. Yeah, then it's a cousin. Well, in today's world, you might get that, right? You never know. But so when I read that book, I'm like, yeah, I do that. I feel that all the time when it comes to certain things, right? Like cold calling for me.
Yeah.
I think you got to have, I think because if you had a game plan, you don't really feel that fear, right? If you have a game plan, I never studied it. So I never had a game plan. I'm sure fear is still there, but like the more you do things, the fear goes away over time, right?
Yeah.
And I always felt that with cold calling. And so I did cold emailing in the past, and that because it's not like one-to-one, but I had some good open rates with that. I haven't really done it full strength, but I don't have the kind of techniques that you need to do. So
I think with cold calling, and cold calling is definitely an ego thing, right? Because your ego is getting shot every time you pick up the phone.
Yeah.
It does. I can tell you, I ran myself in a panic. I only had one panic attack in my life, and it was after I had left that company I was very successful at. Went to another one to try to redo what I had already been doing.
Right.
All I had to do was just keep going, and but self doubt, kicks in, and I was young and ended up running myself into a panic attack, trying to make myself do these calls where I had done hundreds of. I used to be able to. I had a 34/4 system. I know if I made 34 calls, I'd get an appointment.
Right.
So my goal was 4 days a week, make 34 dials. It took me roughly about an hour back then, and and in the beginning, I had tons of fear and stress, anxiety about it, but I was at a great place where I had a manager who threatened to fire me every day, right? Check my phone records.
Okay.
And then every Monday I had to report what I had solved, what I had done that week, the week prior. And if I didn't have appointments, I had to, there was a lot of accountability wrapped into it. Plus I wanted to be successful. But being told you're going to be fired every day helps too, right?
Yeah.
So you put it off until you get to the end of the day, and then you're like, you got to get it done, and then you're like, why the hell did I stress all day?
Procrastinate, right?
But that's what cold. I mean, cold calling is still one of the things I like about that Ricky Caruth guy is the way he puts it is, it's okay for them to say no, and let's go on to the next, right? Just you only want the people that have an interest in what you're doing, and you're not trying to sell them, you're just trying to help them, kind of thing. And it's a mentality for sure.
Yeah.
But I still enjoy it.
No, there was you ever hear of Jim Rohn?
Yeah.
So he's like, I have my Mount Rushmore of guys, gurus I like to follow. He's definitely up there. He's one of the best. Yeah. And he talked about, I think it might have been cold calling, but what he would basically said is at the end of the week, what you just mentioned is checking the logs, right? So he's like, he would come in and talk to one of his employees, and there's like a little box, right? And he would say, did you make your 100 calls today? And the guy would start making excuses, right? And Jim goes, listen, your excuses don't fit in this little box right here, right? Yeah. Did you? It's either yes you did, or no you didn't. Like the excuses doesn't matter. That little box tells everything, right? And I always thought about that too. Like I have my own boxes that I check, right? I have my own because I don't have a boss, so I have my own internal check boxes that I have to do, and I do. I got my list. Every day I start my day with my list of the most important things. If I don't, my ADHD goes off the charts and I get nothing accomplished. And then when you don't get things accomplished, you feel like crap and the stress and anxiety and all that. So I've learned to manage the ADHD that I have, and I write my list at the beginning of the day of the most important things, and I get it down. And that really is that whole mentality is that what is your checkbox, right? Check, check, check. Did you get it done? Either you're doing, also too, I think it might have been, I forget who it was, like either you're following in your own dreams or you're building somebody else's dreams, right? And if you can't be self-disciplined by writing your own list of the most important things to do, then you're going to be doing somebody else's checklist, right? And that's some of the lessons I learned from that as well. But yeah, the cold calling, I wish, I go back in time and I like a lot of some of the most successful people that I follow, like Grant Cardone, Ty Lopez, right? Scott Clendaniel. Well, they're the guys that started off in sales, right? Sales really is the lifeblood of a company. Sales, cold calling, and all that.
There's no company without it, right? You don't have a company without it.
No.
And so there's a guy. It's funny that with that Ricky Cruz, whatever. There's a guy that I love him, Quintavious Burdett, incredible guy. He's a real estate broker in Mississippi. Played for Ole Miss, cornerback, I think. He got a degree. Came from 13 kids. He got a degree in finance and went as an accountant. Went to a big accounting firm. Made more money than he's never made any money. His family was dirt poor. In Mississippi, the house prices he'll talk about are like 100,000 a year. 100,000 on the high end, and it's very it's a bad it's a difficult area, right?
Yeah, like sort of like our hometown of Millville. It's very similar. I mean, it is.
But Quintavious, what he did was he followed Ricky Cruz style, which was he would call people up, say, "Hey, how you doing? Just wondering if there's anything in the world. House sold for you around the corner. Wondering if there's anything I can do for you." That was his whole script. Wow. And then they would say, "No, I'm okay. All right, no worry." And then he would do that until he found he had like a little checkbox stuff himself where every day he had to get 4 points. Like he kind of equated it to football and said, "Hey, if I get an appointment, that's a half a point or 1 point." And he had a whole system for it. If you got a listing agreement, that was, that could be 4 points or whatever. So he had his whole little system down that he would check every day. And if he finished it by 10 o'clock, he had the rest of the day to himself. Or if it took him to 8 o'clock, that was part of the deal. Right. And every day you started over with a new day. So you had to get your points all over again. But anyway, so he became the number one realtor in Mississippi in a year and a half, came number 2 in all of RE/MAX across the whole country. For listings, he sold like 300 houses by his 3rd year. So amazing guy. And all he does is cold call. Like that's literally all he does. He sits there and he has a dialer, right? So he's not hand dialing, ding, ding, ding. He's logging on and then the system's dialing these people. And if somebody picks up, he talks to them. So, but that's kind of where I found myself recently is, and we'll talk about the software, I guess, down the road, make sure it works the way it's supposed to. But so yesterday, same thing. It was the end of the day. I hadn't made my calls. It takes a while. You can't, if I'm just calling traditional ways, I'm just going to pick up the phone. I'm going to hit dial and I'm going to have to call and talk to about 10, 15 secretaries and everything else before I get somebody on the phone, maybe if I'm lucky. So I have a system where I just bought into where they dial for me. There's a bunch of people, mostly South America, that dial for you, your leads. And as soon as they get somebody on the phone, they connect it to you.
Yeah, I've had that. Hold that thought. So yeah. I've had, I guess they're the openers, right? Yeah. The fluffers, So you got some
fluffers. They have all different levels. Yeah.
Right. So you have some fluffers, right? And you come in with, you're coming with your big guns and you're ready to start selling. Yeah. But, it's been effective. It has been effective for me. And I hate people that cold call me. Yeah. But if you do it right, I guess, I can attest.
It's finding the right person.
Finding the right person that has the right problem. And then, I'll connect.
At the right time.
Sure, at the right time. And I'll pick up the phone. Sure. So you got to let me know. Let me know how that works because. Yeah.
I booked an appointment yesterday from it. I literally got on at the end of the day. I hit go. And the first person picked up, I booked an appointment with. It was a large account. It was like 80 employees, 60 on health insurance. So it was a nice size account that I'm meeting with next week. So I'm trying. It's for me. I don't know that I have the energy to sit on the phone all day anymore. Okay. You know what I mean? I don't. I'm too old. So I need a different way. I need some fluffers.
You need more fluffers in your life. 100%.
Yeah.
Are you a finisher still? I don't know.
I'm pretty much. I'm too old for that too.
Well, you got to let me know how it goes because people on LinkedIn have been reaching out to me for setting up these calls too, setting up these leads. And I've never done that. And so I would love to hear about pricing. Do you set up, like, you don't have to tell the pricing now, but you off-air pricing. What else is like scripts? Like, do they come up with the script? Do you come up with the script? Do you collaborate off of opening script?
All they're doing is connecting you, right? They're connecting you with the people on your list. So you're
Okay.
not, because if you had to sit there and dial through and hit all these dial trees, and so
Okay.
where their experts at is talking with the gatekeepers, trying to not get around them, but kind of get to the person you need to talk to.
Right.
And they average about one connection for every 10 dials, right? So yesterday they made 7 dials to get my one connect, right? And it depends how many people's calling
Yeah.
at a time, right? I mean, there's seven. I mean, at that point there was 7 or 8 people calling, and one of them got my contact one of the contacts, and they connected. It's
Okay.
kind of weird because it goes, you hear this beep, and it's like beep, and then you're like, what? You're
Oh.
talking to the person. You're like, what the hell happened?
Wow. It's kind of jarring, right?
Yeah, and you don't know the person's on the other line, and you're like, hello. But
Yeah.
now
Okay.
they teach you to just kind of go through it.
Okay.
Just start talking.
Okay.
That took a little bit. Like that was like you heard like a boxing ring, ding ding.
Yeah. Right.
Go.
Yeah. Like Mike Tyson. Oh my gosh.
But to get back to your point, though, the key is you're not ready. You hate cold callers or whatever. Is to recognize that, accept it, and move on. Right? If you're not if you're not a prospect, move on. Go to the
Well,
next person.
well, yeah, that's interesting too because like we get a lot of demos at Board Director, and that I do fine with. I've learned
Yeah.
that. I actually have a system. I forget Dan Martell from the SaaS Academy.
Yeah.
He has like this whole system of how to present your product to a prospect, right?
Yeah.
And I just follow the formula. I do my research, like, okay, what kind of organization is it? How many board members, etc. And then I just follow the script, ask them what their pain points are. I already know what their pain points are because almost every nonprofit or for-profit company, board problems are the same. Like, okay, we we got to email our boards and our boards hate it. Our board members hate it, right? Okay. So the kind of the same problems I already can predict. So I already have kind of canned answers based on that because I already know that our product solves that problem, right?
Right.
But I need to get the prospects into the demo. So that's what I need to work on is, hey, find the prospectors to get the lead gen to get the demo. And and there's a formula for that, I guess, your funnel. And then, I know what our lifetime value is. So I'm going to look into that. Like, can we get a setter? Can we get that you can do the prospecting, get them into a demo, and that'd be worth a lot for our company. And especially at our close rate, right? But then that's how you run a business. I used to work for a company called Golo. So I don't know if you ever seen they're always on like Fox News, Lifetime Channel. I used to do all their marketing and their website, and we would do $100,000 a week advertising, right? And they could probably be more than now, but at that time it was about $100,000 a week on advertising. And we would have a funnel, right? We would know how many, this ad would go out. We would know how many people would click on the website, and we had it all down to like in science. And we would actually split them on A/B testing, and then we'd run experiments after like weekly experiments. The ads were the same, but the experiments and the landing pages were all different, and that's how we would know. And for board director, I need to set that up as well, right? To scale. So yes, it's good talking points. And speaking of that, that's one of the reasons why I wrote this book. And I think this comes from the ClickFunnels. Are you familiar with Russell Brunson and ClickFunnels?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I got this book, right? This expert secrets book. And he gave it to me for free. But I just had to pay for the shipping and handling.
$49.95.
Right. And then when I got my free book offer, and then I got to the landing page, they tried to upsell me right. And then they tried to upsell me again. And I'm like, oh, before you know it, that free book cost me $49.95. Right. So it's, with Board Director, it's going to be a similar thing. And Board Director Institute, it's a similar thing. Like we're creating content to, free shipping and handling books. And here's a book for free, pay the shipping and handling. That's the funnel. And then you upsell, hey, would you like to get the free audio version of the book and an instant PDF of it as well, right? And then they click yes, and you get $9.95 based off of that, or $19.95, whatever the price is. And then, by the way, we also have board training, which I like to get certified, right? So that's that funnel that we're working on. And that's the purpose of why I'm writing the book. I didn't ever wanted to be an author. Right. But it's serving the course of attention. And that's another thing that's why I always wear the 10X hat it's just to keep reminding me, like, I watched Grant Cardone's career, and with the 10X philosophy is taking massive action. And he's basically saying attention is what matters, right? You have to get attention in the marketplace. And our board of directors is such a boring field, right? It really is. And it's but it can be, right? Like
Just hearing
anything.
you talk about it, it's got me all worked up.
Yeah, if you go, if board fluffer is a really good. But like with anything, like it's like we're all trying to just figure out what is that formula, right? And attention is probably the number one, right? So this is one of the reasons why I'm doing the podcast is one, talk to you, talk about business, talk about life, talk about all these different things, overcome the fear of communicating, whether it's, on a podcast or on the phone. I go through those kind of fear things, and just by doing it, it's going to help out a lot.
100%. Yeah, I think there's that saying, "Well, action cures everything," right?
Action
cures everything. Yeah.
Well, and that's what again, go back to 10x is there's 4 types of action according to the book. There's no action, right? There's retreat, right? I've seen a lot of people retreat in life, that's for sure. And then there's like just the regular action. So that's the 3rd type. And the 4th type is the massive action. That's the 10x action. And in the beginning, I remember when he was out, he was on every day. He was on live YouTube every single day. And he was giving out, the content that he was giving out was so good, right? And I think that's really also matters. You can take massive action, but you just got to provide a ton of value for people that they want to sit back and listen to what you're saying. And is it going to help them, whether, whatever it is, whatever the theme of your podcast is, are you adding value that they're getting from that? Otherwise, they're not going to tune in. Right.
Did you ever see the interview that he did with, or that Jordan Belfort from Wolf of Wall Street?
Well, you know what?
Ugly.
Well, it's ugly, and it's one of the few times. There's 2 times that I did not like Grant Cardone. Yeah. One was the Jordan Belfort interview, and 2 was when he was interviewing Tai Lopez. And I think it was how you're measuring each other, right? He was he was just trying to I'm the better salesperson, or I'm more wealthy. And I always got that bravado from him, but it was always in a positive way, right? Yeah. Take massive action, do important things. Don't sit back and wait. It's your duty to your business and to your family to take this massive action, 10x action, right? That was always his premise, and I enjoyed it. But like everybody, he had a flaw. It was, hey, instead of you and I just sitting back and talking about sales, and maybe your approach is different than my approach. Him and that Belfort, it was like he was trying to attack him, and a lot of people were turned off by that. And the same thing with Tai Lopez. He was making fun of him because maybe Tai Lopez might have made $10 million, $20 million, somewhere in that range, maximum 100 mil. Grant Cardone was well above that, or seemed anyway. And I know his real estate empire is kind of getting into the billions now. And it turned me off. I like you for the content that you bring, the education that you bring. By being cocky, I've always had an aversion to cocky people. And the worst part is I see that in myself, and I've had to battle that. It's like, I hate cocky people. Just can't stand them.
I saw there's 2 things one I saw Gary. It's a good one that Gary V was with Grant Cardone at Grant Cardone's office.
Okay.
And it was a short. It wasn't a very long video, whatever. And Grant's a sales guy, right? He's that old school, to me, an old school traditional sales guy that just you beat them until they say yeah. And he, Gary Vee was like, no, that's not how you do it, kind of thing. Grant was trying to get him to say what he was doing. Grant, and Gary Vee's like, no. But I tell you, one thing that really turned me off to Grant, years ago, I was listening. He does his cold calls, he'll have, his cold calls online, like him making cold calls, whatever. And he has this guy on the phone. The guy was down to his last $3,000. He had it on a credit card. He lost his job. He didn't have any money. And Grant's selling him this system, right? Which he sells for $10,000 or something like that. But he's selling him this system, his sales system, his Cardone University or whatever it was. And the guy's going, look, I don't have income. I don't have I have literally $3,000 on one credit card, but that's going to have to pay our rent. We're going to have to live off of that. And the guy's going, and Grant's going, look, if you're going to let $3,000 hold you back from being a millionaire and this, that, and the other, and he didn't, in my opinion, he didn't give two. Now, I have two opinions on it. One is I don't think he gave two craps about the guy. He just wanted his $3,000. And if the guy ended up living on the street and being divorced and everything else, the guy's going, my wife, we won't be able to pay the rent if I don't have this credit card to pay the rent, right? He like literally had nothing. And I'm thinking he doesn't give a crap about that. There's two thoughts on it. One is that he doesn't care. He just wants his $3,000 and that's him winning, right? The other part is that he believes his product is so great that if he buys it, he's going to succeed. So I don't know I think it's a little bit of both. It's him selling to sell to win and him believing in his product is the best and whether it is or not. And my thought was this guy, his product wasn't going to do crap for him, right? That was my opinion. I don't think this product was going to make him be incredible in sales or whatever. I just felt like he was that just really turned me off. I felt like
did he close it? Did he close the deal?
Yeah. My feeling was if he believed so much in the product, he would have told him, you know what, you're down, you're out, you're not going to be able to pay your rent. I'm going to give you this product and prove to you that it'll make you this. And in a month from now, you give me that $3 because you're going to make 10.
Yeah.
That's would have been, but he didn't say that. He just wanted the 3,000, and then later on you can make your money. You know.
Well, it's a different, I guess, mentality and approach. You can look at it, right? Number one is, and I've seen this, and I've heard this from people that have courses or a product to sell. If you buy a course, you're more likely to use the course, right. And people that have it for free, they don't ever get on it, right? So I can see like. There's a reason that could be one. Right. That could be one reason that he's experienced that. Maybe he has tried it in the past.
For the other reason,
right? Probably not. But
the other reason.
But no, the other thing that I'm thinking of is okay. He sold him it. I would love to have seen a follow up video. Was there ever a follow up video? Like,
no,
okay, yes.
My guess is there wasn't ever. My feeling was I don't think this was going to help this guy.
Right.
You talk about fear of cold calling. He was in sales, this guy, okay. And I just feel like. Nothing was going to make this guy. He didn't offer any one-on-one. He didn't do any of that stuff. What I remember, it was just to sell the course. Right. And I don't know. And who knows? Maybe he became a multimillionaire. Maybe.
That would be interesting to see a follow-up video too, because I think I've seen a few of those. That might have been one, and it's a really great line. You're gonna let $3,000 hold you back from $1 million? Yeah, that's powerful, man. He's great at selling for sure.
Yeah, right? He's great at that whole. Yeah, just kind of that old school, like Jordan Belfort used to say, you buy or die. Yeah. It was that kind of thing. Like they were very much a buy or die to me philosophy. It's that old traditional, you don't hang up on them, they hang up on you. You know what I mean? Which I want to leave the call, better than when I got it. You know what I mean? So I don't want to go into the call and burn bridges, right? I want to build relationships.
Did you ever see that Jordan Belfort movie?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and did you ever read his straight line system?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. It's funny. I got a book from so you can buy it online, right, for like $12 or something. Okay. You can find it on different sites. But and then there's a girl that wrote a book called Mastering the Straight Line. Oh. And it's on Amazon. Yeah. Okay. No, I've delve into this stuff.
Right, because you're in sales.
I read when I go like like these books that have all the there's highlighted and pages turned and all that stuff. That's how I read sales books. Like my wife reads fiction, and I'm like, why?
I could never do that.
You wasted an hour of your life reading something that wasn't true. It's like
right. Yeah.
So anyway, but she loves it, right? I just don't. I don't get any I don't gain anything from a book like that. Like,
it's interesting is, two guys that lived across each other on Ireland Avenue. I'm really serious about this. Like, not many of the people that we know like to read books. Like, I didn't like school. I always got in trouble in school. Did you ever go to Mount Pleasant? Did you go to Mount Pleasant?
No, I went to Culver and then
you went to Culver.
Emmerich Avenue.
Emmerich Avenue. So I had this teacher, sixth grade teacher, and this is when my mom and dad split up. So it's probably one of the reasons why I was acting up. But on the sixth grade report card, there was your behaviors, right? And like list, I think 1 is 0 to 3, but she gave me basically all zeros and all the behavior. Right. And then because I was like I was with, I don't know if you remember Andy Cheeseman, like he and I were
Oh
like
yeah.
in class together, and we're just like class clowns. And together we were like, it was two crazy kids just interrupting everybody. And I look back and like, how did that kid turn out to be like me? Right.
Right.
And then I see similarities in my son. My youngest son has that. He has that, like like it's, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's aggressiveness or willing to be stand out. I think that's an
Right.
important thing. But then I'm like, how did I eventually graduated from college, but then how did I fall in love with education? Right. And I
Right.
did. I fell in love with education
Well, it's a certain
through
type of
book. Yeah.
education.
A certain type, like not traditional, like sitting in,
Right.
right. But it's like through books, right? You can learn anything. And it's
Yeah.
amazing. If you want to learn a skill in selling, or you want to learn a skill of marketing, if you want to learn a skill of anything, there's this out there, the books. And now with like YouTube and Chat GPT, like there is literally no excuse for you not to be successful except for
Right.
yourself.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you and I both discovered that, right?
I
When
don't know.
most of the people we know, you know, they don't.
I knew early on I didn't want to work for somebody else.
Yeah.
I just knew early on. I just don't do well with authority. I don't really do well with someone telling me like that manager I had that it was
One,
good for me to tell me I was a piece of crap every day, but
yeah. But
eventually, and this was funny because he was an MB, he had his MBA from Wharton. He was a VP of a large insurance company, and it was funny because after I started, I actually fought to get away from him because he would he would he would yell at me after meetings. He would take me to restaurants and yell at me in front of people. Right? I mean, he was so
wow.
horrible, and he was tough. So it was funny though. After I had started writing all this business, and I'm cranking out tons and tons of business. And he came up to me one day. He got demoted. So I was actually his last opportunity to be successful as a sales manager. And he had been ahead of a large insurance company for the marketing. So he came into, it was actually in the bathroom. I was washing my hands and he come in, he looks underneath the stalls. He goes, "Hey man, how are you writing so much business?" And that was that was like an
Wow.
uplifting thing. I was like, and that was 6 months after, 8 months after I started and a few months
Right.
after I got rid of him. And it was that kind of like that. That's just, I'm like, here's this guy who's well educated,
Right.
and would just tear me up, but yet had no idea what he was doing
No
himself.
idea. Well, that's why I was getting demoted.
Yeah, but
But
he had spent
so you
years.
learned that so you started again going back. It's from that book. You read that book, and that's what kind of started propelling you to do
The
well in
first
sales.
book I ever read, I got to look back in my collection here. The first book I ever read, and I don't know if it's up there or should be up there, but I don't see it. Anyway, the first book I ever read was by a guy named Joe Gandolfo. And it's funny because I have so much of his stuff. So go Joe Gandolfo, um, his book Sell and Grow Rich, right? He was a big Napoleon Hill fan,
uh,
but he was also, his parents died very young. His dad had money, but his uncle, who was the after both parents died, the uncle took over the estate and basically put him in military school and spent all the money. Um, and so he grew up very poor, alone, and he was a school teacher making like 200 and some bucks a week. This is in the 60s, or 200 some bucks a month. It was 230 or something a month. And somebody came in with selling life insurance and said, well, to sell him a policy for him and his wife. He just got married, and said, "Hey, if you sell, you should sell life insurance, and if you do, we'll pay you 400 a month. Almost double." So he went out and he studied the manual. They agreed to do it, and this is crazy. So he was a minor baseball league player too, and he didn't. He hurt himself, and ended up, he was drafted by the Cardinals in minor league system. So anyway, he goes in his book. So he says, "I'm going to treat it like baseball," which I kind of like. People would think this is crazy, but you think about it, like sports players leave their families all the time for spring training and other camps and whatever. Golfers leave for weeks at a time. Anyway, so he said, "I'm going to give this everything I have. I'm going to move to Louisiana." They were in Ohio. His wife went to live with her parents, and he said, "I'm going to give this thing all I have. If I fail, it'll be their fault, not mine." And his first week, so he had to write $100,000 of insurance, 10 policies for 10,000. And then if he did that, they would give him a position, and he would pay him 400 bucks a week or a month. he writes in his first week, he writes something like 100,000. He had to do it in 3 months. He did it in 1 week. And then after that, his first 6 months, he did, his first 6 months, he did, 36 total, $18,000 his first 6 months. It would have took him a dozen years to make that as a school teacher. His second 6 months, he did the same exact thing, made like 30 some $1,000. For 6 months, he didn't have his wife come with him, and she just had her baby. He hadn't even seen his baby yet. 6 months in, his wife, and it was a different time back then. You couldn't just travel back and forth like you can now. His wife came to see him, came to move with them at 6 months. They bought a new home. He got her a housekeeper. He bought a brand new car, and then the next 6 months he, did the same thing, and that's, so the book was kind of inspiring. So once I read that, is what kind of really hit it for me. And then I got into, I'd already been in insurance, so it just kind of was a natural progression.
Okay. Well, that's interesting that you brought up Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, because that was the book, that was the catalyst for me to I always had the idea, right? But I didn't understand the mechanism, right? So that was the book that kind of inspired me to start my first company, which was website design and marketing. So I would sit there and I would listen to the owner of the website design company that I was working for, and I would listen, because before, like on our last podcast, right, we talked about the RAM, which is I think it's called the reticular activating, whatever it is, center. It's RAC, reticular activating system, center or system, RAS, whatever it is, right? Okay. Well, and I learned that through Brian Tracy. He talked about that. But anyway, so I was paying attention and I was just listening. And then my mind started picking up all these little signals and opportunities that I never saw before. And that's how I landed my first client. Right. And then I started my company. I'll tell you a quick story. So I created my first business card. It was michaelbarrett.com, right? And I didn't proof it. So I got all these business cards, right? And I started handing them out. And then my wife, at the time, she was my girlfriend at the time, not my wife. She's like, "You spelled something wrong." I'm like, "What?" I spelled my name with 3 R's. The Barrett, my last name is Barrick. I spelled it with 3 R's.
Your attention deficit kicking in.
That's my ADHD. I was so excited by the design of things that I'm like, luckily business cards are cheap and it wasn't a massive mistake. But I handed those out, and if you see a mistake on a website business card, you're not going to hire that person, right? You got to make sure you do everything right. But yeah, the Think and Grow Rich book was the book that really propelled me into start to look into starting my own business. That was, I think that book's launched more businesses than any other book in history.
Sure, probably has.
Right.
Yeah, there's a boxer that read that book and then became a champion after he read that book. I can't remember the guy's name. He's from I think he might have been from North Jersey, but it was pretty kind of. I'm like, who would have thought somebody would have read that? But it was I'm a big fan of that book.
Well, you're going to be a big fan of this one. I'm going to send you a copy of the Beginner's Guide. Yeah. So
I have a friend that wrote a children's book. And it's like it's cool little book about animals and stuff like that. And I would have never thought he would have wrote a book at all.
No.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting about all of this stuff is there are times when I'm creating the design of our company's logo or brochures or whatever, or writing this book. I mean, there are times when I go this sucks, man. This really sucks. Formatting this book was a pain in the ass. I through Kindle, because you had to do it for paperback. I did one for 8.5 by 11. I did one for the Kindle edition, and it's not like these things take a second, right? They take, they could take hours to do that, and while you're doing it, it's just boring, painstaking work, right? And you're like, oh, why do I? It's like one of those things. Why am I doing this? I could just live nice and easy, cover all my bills. And why do I need to do this? But something internal keeps pushing me forward. I've never been able to answer what that is, though. And what drives probably your success and some of these other people's massive success. What propels me forward? That's what I'm doing today. I'm still not reaching my potential, right? The 10x mentality kind of thing.
Anybody does. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what that is. Like, and then I don't understand how some people don't even have that. They don't even have any of that, where they're just sitting on the sidelines.
I mean, look, I think you need a little bit of everybody, though, right? You need those people that that just want to go to work and push the button every day, right? And I think you need them all, right? So that's how things run. I mean, you need everybody.
Yeah, I was listening to a Tim Ferriss podcast with Seth Godin. Have you ever heard of Seth Godin? Purple Cow, that guy. Yeah. Well, he was talking about the bees, right, and how the bees operate. And yeah, you need those bees to go out and get all the get all the pollen to come back. Yeah, you need the queen bee. I mean, yeah, to have a functioning hive, right, or our society, you do need those people. There are more of those out there than less of us, which is.
I feel like you're like sitting there all, like all straight. And I'm constantly floating back and forth in my little cube here.
I know. I tell you, next time I'm gonna get my boxing gloves on. Right?
That's my ADHD. I have trouble sitting still. I can't do it. The worst thing for me, especially as I get older too, is if I have to attend a seminar and I got to sit there for like 2 hours or something like that. Oh my God, it's like just stab me in the eye. It's like. It is the worst. I just don't enjoy doing any of that. Right? I'm that 5-year-old, that sits still in class. I can't help it.
No, like anything is, you train yourself to do something, right? Yeah. And I know this is our first podcast, video cast, you want to call it. We're going to be on YouTube, and you're going to be moving around. And people might not be bothered by it at all. Hey, they see movement, they see activity. They might not
watch another podcast. You don't like my movement.
That's right. You don't like it. So what? You don't like that I'm sitting still like a statue? Well, I started to practice when I did a couple of YouTube videos for the company, and one video would take all day in front of a camera. Because talking is a lot easier than reading from a script, or trying to write from to record from a script. That's a pain in the ass. And I taught myself how to look into the camera and not look at the screen, but it's a pain in the ass. So I did kind of train myself how to do that.
I look at like Gary Vee. Gary Vee doesn't do any of that shit, right? He just records on his cell phone. He don't care what he looks like. He says just record, right? 10 seconds, you got yourself another video.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like that Ricky Cruz, if you ever follow him, he just started. It's funny watching. If you go to his YouTube channel and put down the oldest video, it's from 2017, and he had been making $1 million a year for years. But he's from the South. He's a Alabama guy that. Very simple guy. And then I would sit there and I would go, I would sit there and I would, like watch that first video, and he's on stage and he's got like 20 people at Remax because he was a Remax guy, right. And his jacket looks too big, and he's just, and he's going, I did this and I did that. Right. And there's no personality at all. And,
right.
And then fast forward now, he's like yelling at the screen, hey, crazy Eddie kind of thing,
Yeah.
And I just, I always, I just think of that a lot, that whole, that transition, you get to, from one person, becoming one person to another, he's stuck with, I don't think I would ever do that,
Well, it's funny because I was listening to this morning, Stephen A. Smith, right? I don't agree with a lot of what he has to say, but what he's really good at is that kind of like, in your face, I don't care what you think kind of personality, right? Yeah. And I think that's how Grant Cardone is. How a lot of these guys, you can't be on the fence. You got to be entertaining. There is that there, right? But then you have a guy like Joe Rogan, who's massively successful too, and he's sitting there thoughtfully asking questions. He's having a really great dialogue.
He used to be that way in the beginning. You watch his old ones, man. Nobody ever talked, so.
Oh, well, he probably learned how to be.
He got the feedback. People saying, Joe, shut the hell up.
Yeah. Well, it's like in anything, you get the feedback from people, or he just got better at it, get more comfortable at it, saw what worked, what didn't work.
Well, these are going to suck, right? I mean, these are going to look like shit. My first one was real grainy. Now I got a little bit better, Next time I'll have some light. You
Right.
know, I watch some of these and they don't record so close up.
Yeah.
They have the whole work area.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't know. Everybody's different.
Well, eventually we can, we can grow this into the massive success that we know that it will be, our 10x mentality, right? Then we
10
can do
people.
something bigger.
Yeah, we'll have 10 people. I think
We'll
we'll
have
get 10
10.
people.
Well,
Yeah, at least 10.
before you get to 10 million, you got to get to 10, right? So I watch Mr. Beast. You ever see Mr. Beast on YouTube?
I've watched some of his stuff and I always go, how the hell is this guy successful?
Oh, he's the biggest dork in the world. He really is. Like somebody, if you saw him in high school, back in the 80s and 90s, we don't do them anymore. You might have to
It's worth like $1 billion.
You tease him a little bit. But but that is also something that getting attention is what I said earlier. Yeah. Getting attention is the key. In this creator environment, you're the creator, influencer environment. If you can get attention, the sky is really the limit more than any other time, because these massive brand deals, look at Logan Paul, massive following, right? Creates Prime. This, have you ever heard of this Prime from him? The kids love it. It's just like Gatorade, and the kids actually don't like to drink this Prime. They don't like to drink, but he ratcheted up the marketing and hype on this product so much that it's like worth $1 billion, right? Yeah. So you look at him, you look at not Kardashian, the Jenner's girl. She has such a massive following on Instagram that she's selling makeup worth $1 billion. So I think that's the key for a lot of people in the creator economy, influencer economy, is get a massive following. And then once you can get a massive following, then you can do all these little deals and side hustles and businesses. And because people, they like you, they get to know you, they want to buy from you. And, hopefully we get to sell our stuff to people.
Listen, for me, it's always been, you know what? Let's see what happens. Yeah. It's just fun. It's fun to chat and talk about business and whatever.
We'll talk about whatever.
It turns into something great, fantastic.
Yeah, man. So listen. The official episode 1 is done. I got to rock and roll out of here, but we'll see you next Wednesday at 1.
Next Wednesday at 1.
Not 6, right? 6. No. Is it? Matter of fact, you created the calendar. How can you forget? You created the calendar. Sent me the calendar invite, and you forgot.
I'll have to correct it. Don't correct it next week.
Don't correct it. 1 o'clock works for me. But anyway, episode 1, we're out.
We're out. See you, bud.
Bye, bud.